Hey everyone, happy off-season. Welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the only show by real fantasy football fans for real fantasy football fans. I'm your host, 20-year fantasy veteran and diehard Bear fan, Greg Reifsteck.
And I'm your co-host, Jenilee Borek, also a Chicago Bears fan and a 10-year fantasy veteran. And together we are the beauty
and the beast
of fantasy football experts.
Draft time, everybody. NFL Draft 2014. It's been a really exciting weekend. Started on Thursday, and everybody was on pins and needles. Who's going to go first, and we all know who went first already. Pull up your ESPN. Everybody knows who went first. And the Texans, did everything predictably. There were a few last-minute deals that were out there all over ESPN and all over NFL Network talking about somebody wanted to get into the first-round pick, and they said, well, you got to give us 3 first-round picks the next 3 years if you're going to get it for this year. And then there was the really, really not too crazy one, but they were going for Mallett, the backup quarterback on the Patriots, to try and get him in exchange for some picks in the first-round pick, and that didn't happen. So what did you think of the first round?
Well, I definitely think that Clowney had to be the first pick, so the Texans did what they were supposed to do there. Even though I think he's going to be amazing, to give up 3 first-rounders is just craziness.
Yes.
I don't think you can really do that for anyone. Nope. And then a trade for Mallett would have been, in my eyes, a stupid move as well. Though they still need some help at quarterback, you're not going to pass up on Clowney to go and get Mallett. So Texans definitely did what they were supposed to do. Khalil Mack fell to Oakland, which was a great move for Oakland. So there were a few funky things that happened. Blake Bortles went 3rd overall to Jacksonville. I don't think anyone saw that coming, even though they need a quarterback. They could have gotten him a lot later. Definitely. And done some maneuvering. So there was some fun stuff that happened in the draft overall, and especially the first round. And we had to wait really long this year. We had to wait till May, so there was a lot of extra coverage, I felt like.
Yeah, and when you were saying a long wait, I thought you were just talking about them taking the obvious pick at 1, because I'm like, okay, we all know who the 15 minutes. Come on, really?
That was
really?
A long wait.
Yeah, and they kept showing the room, and I think even ESPN was expecting a phone call there. And I think even the Texans were expecting the phone call, and it never came, so they were like, oh, no, shit, now we got to send the pick in. And they went even 20 seconds into the next pick. So, but I'm glad you brought up Jacksonville and who they took, because everybody was expecting them to take Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel, and that didn't happen. And congratulations, I actually think Jacksonville made a smart football move and taking somebody that they think is actually going to fit into their system, as opposed to putting somebody on the front of their media guide and rolling the dice. We all know where he went. He went to the Browns. And good luck, Cleveland. Jenilee and I have very differing views on this. I think it's kind of a circus move on their part. I think you're dealing with a very large football base there, a very big football town. And they're, of course, dancing in the streets, and they're going crazy and high-fiving each other now. But they've been through this before with other quarterbacks. And all of a sudden, he's going to get clocked really hard, like week 3 or week 4. Actually, maybe week 1 by Palomalu against the Steelers. And I don't think he's going to pan out. What do you think?
Well, I just think at this point it's a complete mystery, and I think a lot of NFL analysts that all they do is watch tape, and scouts are even a little bit mystified by him. I just don't think it's predictable quite yet if he's going to translate. For sure, he's not going to be able to play the same exact way he played in college. He can't run around. Every play can't be a broken play. The NFL defenses are way, way too fast for that to happen. So he has to be better at making his reads. He's got to get to his 2nd and 3rd read at wide receiver, and he's got to stand in the pocket a lot better. But, who knows if he's able to work those things out and they can get him going as more of a pocket quarterback. then
Right.
it could happen. They are lacking receivers over there in Cleveland, especially with Josh Gordon again being suspended. Really, Josh Gordon? Didn't you learn your lesson here last year? I mean, you told all of us that I learned my lesson. This is never going to happen again, and you're going to be out for who knows, probably more than I think last year was 4 games, and it's going to be probably more than 4.
They say what you can get now, he can go out for the entire season. So welcome to Cleveland, Johnny. You thought you were passing to Josh Gordon, but that might not be the case.
That's the thing that's going to be hard for him, because with any of these quarterbacks, none of them in this draft were really the guys to go in and be the guy and start right away. Some of them might be in a situation like Manziel where he's going to be forced to possibly have to start sooner than he's ready. But it'd be much easier if he was going somewhere that had powerful receivers for him to throw to, veteran receivers for him to learn a little bit more from. So it's a mystery, but the Browns do have a very solid defense.
Yes.
And they've been bad for so long. They got to try something, right?
Right. And I mean, you bring up a good point with overall in the draft. Everybody, of course, ESPN and everybody likes to pull the hype in NFL Network. Quarterbacks are going to go hot in the first round this year. This is the year of the quarterback. And it's bullshit because everybody took who they needed either as a lineman on offense or they took defensive players. And teams are finally realizing, and management of teams are finally realizing, you need the solid defense. And they took who they needed. They didn't take the marquee players. And a lot of players dropped to the later rounds.
Well, and again, these quarterbacks weren't like your Andrew Luck quarterback, weren't like your Peyton Manning quarterback. They weren't that caliber. So I think teams realized that instead of listening to too much outside noise and said, okay, we can get a quarterback if we need to groom him in the later rounds, but let's fill a need and get a guy that we can get out there on the field right away.
Definitely. Speaking of filling needs, let's get to our Chicago Bears. And we have Emery, who I think has been doing a stellar job managing our team. And I think during the draft, he did a stellar job, except Jenilee had some gripes after round 1. I have to bring it up, I'm sorry, because her battle cry during the entire first round was, we better get a safety, and then we didn't get a safety, and then it hits the second round, and where the hell is our safety?
We definitely need safety help.
We do!
I thought for sure we would take Pryor or Clinton-Dix in the first round, and then once we didn't do that in the first round, I thought second round is definitely going to be a safety. Not that I didn't like the defensive tackle move. We also needed some defensive tackles. But yeah, the first round definitely caught me a little bit off guard. I think caught a few people off guard because most people were thinking safety or defense. Some people were thinking defensive tackle even. Yeah. So the Bears are always interesting. But last year, I think Phil Emery had a great draft.
Yes.
His first year was a little sketchy, but it was also still the Lovie Smith coaching staff and everything like that. So he didn't have his own. He didn't have his own
stuck in my throat.
Staff in place. But I think now that he has his own staff in place, last year was great, and I think he did a good job this year. So
Kyle Long, thank you.
Yeah, that's right. So let's get into it right away. So we didn't take a safety. We took a corner, but I'm not upset at it. We still need some help in the secondary, so I do think it's a great pick. We took cornerback Kyle Fuller from Virginia Tech. Now, he's 6 feet, 190 pounds, and I'm going to give a few more stats on him since he's our first pick. So in 2011, he had 65 tackles, 14 and a half tackle for losses, so talk about needing help stopping the run, 4.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. So in 2011, he just was all over the field in beast mode, as we like to say here. In 2012, he had 52 tackles, 3 tackle for losses, 2 interceptions, and 5 pass breakups. So not as much production, but still very solid production. Now in 2013, he did miss 9 games on injury. So obviously his production wasn't as much because he couldn't play. But he was an all-ACC selection. and he had 24 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 10 pass breakups. Now, Mike Mayock did say that he is the most NFL-ready cornerback that he saw on tape. So that's a great thing to hear from any analyst that just watches tape all day. And we're going to have him playing nickel right away. So he is going to be on the field this year. He's expected to be able to slide into that nickel spot. And, of course, he's the guy that the Bears are hoping to groom for to replace Charles Tillman. As we know, I think Tillman's about 33 years old. Yeah. He's up there in age. He's only on a 1-year deal, so we're not sure what we're going to do with him after this year. And injuries are always something that can happen, like last year. Yes. But he's the guy the Bears are hoping to groom. So I do like the pick, even though I thought safety first. But I do like it, and we are going to have him on the field this year. So what do you think about him overall?
I thought he was a fantastic first pick, and what I keep liking about Emery is he takes the best person on the board. Yes, we needed a safety, but he took the best person that was on the board at the time. It was said that the Bears had 6 people that they were looking at, and he was on the list of 6, so he was like, let's take him. And I mean, the stats, speak for themselves. I mean, I think he's going to be great. He's going to start right away, and you get to learn from Peanut Tillman.
That's a great thing, and Tim Jennings. I mean, yes. Both of them.
Yes.
But yeah, teach him that peanut punch.
Yeah.
We're going to need that.
So then we took Eagle Ferguson from LSU, defensive tackle, 315 pounds, 6'3", pick number 51st, 38 games for LSU. LSU, fine team to come from, great pedigree, and 85 tackles and 1 sack. Yes, we've been hearing a lot of problems with his discipline. We've been hearing a lot of issues with him. I think he's coming to a team that now we've had problems with our pass management that they're not going to put up. They used to put up with that crap. Mm-hmm. We're not going to put up with it. I think you're coming into Trestman, who, and a defensive coordinator that isn't going to put up with any garbage. So you're coming to the Bears. He's going to want to play, and they're saying he might not start, but he has a solid inside presence. I think they're going to work him into the system. Technique is what they say. He plays 2 technique or whatever. I never know all those technical terms. I'm sorry. I don't coach. But that's what the NFL analysts were saying. And I mean, he closes quickly. The big reason that we took this guy is Emery said when he was watching tape and all the other analysts were watching tape, he stops the run. Yep. He can stop the run. We all know as Bear fans what happened with the running defense last season.
An average of 163 yards per game, I believe so, that was what it was.
Big, quick body. We're going to get him disciplined. I think he's going to work out just fine.
Yeah, and I think he'll definitely be in there for some snaps. He's just not going to be the starter role. So in the 3rd round, we took another defensive tackle. Again, this is a position, though, that we needed to stack a few more bodies on so that they can come in and out during the game. We have more depth at defensive end, especially with everything we did in free agency, but our depth is not really there for defensive tackle. So that's why we took another one in the 3rd. We took Will Sutton from Arizona State. He's 6 feet, 303 pounds. Now, on the conference call, he did say that he's down to 295 pounds right now. The Bears possibly might want to get him down to 285, 290. But he has lost some weight from that 303. In 2012, he was a Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. He had 23.5 tackle for losses and 13 sacks. I will take that. In 2013, he didn't have the same type of production, but he was still Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. He had 10.5 tackle for losses and 3 sacks. And that happened because he was up to about 320 pounds his senior year. So he was really heavy. That's why he didn't have the same production, but he still had production. Mm-hmm. And being Defensive Player of the Year is never a bad thing. So he's going to be in there, I think, in the D-line rotation. He's going to have limited snaps. It's going to be good for depth, like I said, especially because of injuries. We learned from that last year. And he gets to learn under Jeremiah Ratcliffe. which is a great person, a great veteran to learn under again. So I think if he gets his weight down where the Bears want it, and he will contribute a little bit this year. But he gets to learn under a couple veterans that are awesome, even Stephen Pea. So
yeah, I like the fact that we're loading up at that position. I like the fact that we're putting a good rotation in, and I mean maybe our defensive coordinator will be able to actually do his job. I think I was on the bandwagon of hating our defensive coordinator, but
I supported him a little more than you did.
You did. You most definitely supported him a little more than I did. We all got frustrated when you see your team getting sliced up for 200 yards on and run defense it's frustrating. Mm-hmm. So, Emory's going to give you the tools, Mel. Use them. Our next pick was Brock Vereen, Shane Vereen's brother at DB, Shane Vereen of the Patriots. He played DB and safety throughout college. He started at DB, and they had to switch him to safety. He's out of Minnesota, and they had to switch him up because of injury situations on the team. He apparently adapted very well, and that's what Emory saw in him. And he wants some versatility out there, even though he is going to start at safety. We finally got our safety. But I just think that's an interesting point, is he has the versatility, and Emory's a really good, he's taking he was a good judge at this, saying, hey, we might need to switch people around. We've had injuries on defense. Let's get somebody that can play more than one position. He apparently had a really fantastic combine. He had 22 pass blocks, 6 tackles, and 4 interceptions at Minnesota. So what do you think about him?
I do like him, and I think one of the reasons that maybe Emory waited till the 4th pick. Now, we did trade up to get him.
Yes, we did.
So that was great. He was definitely the guy that Emory wanted, and I think it was a great idea to trade up. I still think maybe the Bears' mindset is that Ryan Mundy is going to start at that safety position because we did sign him second in free agency. But either way, they have a lot of guys back there now competing. So whoever ends up winning the starting job, I think, is going to be much improved from what we had going on last year. So we will see who wins it.
Yeah, I mean, a good off season and a good bunch of competition, as Tom Thayer of our great analyst from our Super Bowl team always says. When he was playing on the team, guy in front of you, didn't cut it. You actually, kick him out of the way. That was it. That's the way Ditka used to, coach. It's the way Buddy Ryan used to coach the defense. So we're going to have a lot of, stiff competition, and I think it's only going to make it for a healthier defense.
Oh, I think so too. And on the offensive side of the ball, I think on both sides of the ball, we're really making these guys compete. So whoever wins the starting job is going to be getting it done. Mm-hmm. So another guy that we took in the 4th round was running back Kadeem Carey from Arizona. Now, he's 5'9", 207 pounds, but he's a guy that definitely grinds out those yards, and he tries to punish the tackler for sure. So I like how aggressive he is when he runs. He has that real just hungry style of running. He is going to need some more practice in pass protection. He's okay with it, but he definitely needs to get a little bit better at pass protection. In 2012, he had 1,929 yards, which was a 6.4 yard per carry average. He had 23 rushing touchdowns, 303 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. In 2013, he was the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. So there we go. We got another Player of the Year. He had 1,885 yards. That's a 5.4 yard per carry average. 25 rushing touchdowns. So his touchdowns went up. 173 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. So I think he's a really interesting guy. We obviously need a number 2 running back. Now we do have Michael Ford who was drafted last year. And so I think that they're going to be the 2 that are going to compete for that second running back spot behind Matt Forte. As we know, we like to switch it up and put other backs in on a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 inches situation. Yes. We usually don't use Forte for that a whole lot, or at the goal line. So one of these guys is going to take on that job, be the number 2 guy. And both him and Ford are guys that can return kicks on special teams. So I think the Bears are going to look for that as well, of which one can kind of take over the Devin Hester vacancy that we now have on special teams. So both of these guys are going to compete for returning possibilities.
Yeah, I like the whole replacing. You're not going to replace Hester. Sorry. You can't replace Hester. Will be an heir apparent to the Hester throne. But the fact is we don't have Michael Bush anymore on third down either, who was supposed to be our solid third down back, and he never really emerged into that. So somebody's going to have to do that, and that's where that might come in.
Yeah, more competition.
Yes, definitely. So then we actually got a quarterback out of San Jose State, David Fales.
The Bears drafting a quarterback?
First time since 2011. First time since 2011 that we did that. McCown went off to Tampa Bay, as we know. So good luck down there with Lovey. As we already said in our last show, you're not going to get the stats you got last year, but good luck to you.
We're happy for you, though.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. No bad blood there. Good mobility. He's supposed to be strong and has a very good pocket presence. Has a lot of courage. Sits in there. Is able to wait because unfortunately, supposedly he doesn't have a lot of arm strength. So he's going to have to pick and dip and dunk, and we might not see the long ball from him. Hopefully, we won't have to bring him in at all. You're going to stay healthy all season.
Cutler, please.
You're going to stay healthy all season. I'm rubbing it.
I need one season.
One whole season. As I already said, first quarterback drafted since 2011. 45 games, played all of his games in college, all 4 years for San Jose State. 65.9% passing average, 12,727 yards, 101 touchdowns, and 35 picks. That's pretty good average between picks and touchdowns. I like that. So, again, we'll see. We'll see where he fits in. We just needed somebody to fill that slot. I have a feeling we're going to make one more move at quarterback to get somebody that's a definitive backup from somewhere. Now that the draft is over, now that a lot of shifting has happened, there's still a lot of rogue quarterbacks out there.
Yeah.
I have some sneaking suspicion we're going to get some email from the Bears saying, hey, we picked this guy up for, a mill or two, and we're going to put him in the slot, because that's what happened before. That's what happened with McCown, actually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting pick. I mean, obviously they saw something they liked in him. They did say that the Bears quarterback coach, when working him out, felt like he could make all the throws. So even though the word on the street is, the arm strength isn't there, blah, 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 our quarterback's coach thinks that he can make the throws happen. So, you got to kind of trust the quarterback coach.
Yeah, and the other word was apparently he likes to listen to his coaches and adapts well to coaching and doesn't like to go off on his own too much. And Trestman's been the quarterback whisperer, so I think that'll work out well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we only have 2 more players that the Bears got.
Yes.
And we took a punter, and kickers are people too.
Tell us about the last 2.
Well, supposedly the punter, we took him in the 6th round, and he is supposed to be a guy that is just very physically strong. His 40 dash, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was really good for a kicker. And just his body overall, the way he takes care of it is much better from what you see from a lot of kickers. He played at 2 different schools, and I know he set some records going on with the punt. I think his punt average, his average was 47.5 yards.
That's good.
Per punt, which is good. I mean, he was pinning people, all the way back at like the 2. So and I think we made this move because obviously we didn't re-sign Adam Podlish.
Right.
So we don't have a punter. We need a punter. We see this young guy who we think can really change field position. And that's important in our division. I mean, you're going against Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford and company. Even the Vikings, you're going against Adrian Peterson, and who knows, they have a new coach. They are doing something with quarterback,
something.
We're figuring it out. But, their offense might start to come along. So field position is a big part of the game, and they liked him. I mean, I know it's weird to draft a punter. I feel like it was weird because you can get them after the draft
I thought,
or in the 7th round. So it was like, really, we're using a 6th rounder. But Emory, you know what? I'm not going to question this one. I'm just going to say, you know what you're doing.
I seriously felt like I was watching fantasy football and somebody's taking like, a kicker in like the 10th round. You're like, why? Really? Okay.
It was interesting.
But as I keep saying, and I've been believing in this, Emory takes the best person on the board. He must have been the best person on the board for what our needs were.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we needed a punter.
We did. So we got the best one on the board.
And our 7th rounder. You go ahead with that one.
Who?
Took a guard.
Yes.
I don't even know his name.
I don't either. So we're going to skip him.
But you can never have too many offensive linemen.
I'm going to, because when it gets to those last rounds, I'm sorry, guys, right? Thanks.
Yeah. Well, 80% of guys that are drafted don't even really make it past training camp. So.
But, I mean, this just in, and this has been batted around, and it hasn't been made official by the Bears, but every journalist says it's true. So, in the know, in good football journalism, Northern Illinois University quarterback Jordan Lynch is going to be playing for the Bears. They're going to set him up as a running back, they're saying. And I think this is, speaking of mystery, going to be a mystery position because I think we're going to try and change the dynamic of our offense even a little bit more. They kept saying the reason, Emory said the reason he's picking him up is he's thinking of putting him behind, having him take the snap. So, I mean, the Wildcat is dead, but maybe not all the way dead. We might have him run right off of the snap. We might have him put him in, and then there's the option that we're able to pass because he's a solid passer. He was a star for Northern Illinois University. So we'll see. It's kind of a last-minute wild card after the draft that we're going to take on this mystery player. So, hey.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And obviously Mark Trestman's offense, only being 1 year in, isn't fully installed. I'm sure Trestman has a ton of stuff up his sleeve. So maybe this is just one of those things that's up his sleeve that we just have no idea about. I mean, I think it's interesting. I have no idea what's going to come of it, but hey.
Hey, total side note, I saw the Alouettes headquarters up in Montreal. I just recently took a trip to Montreal, and I was like, hey, that was Trestman took that team to two Canadian Bowls, whatever the hell they call them up there. So I'm like,
championships.
And I was talking to people that are familiar with CFL, and I mean, they play the game a little bit differently there. So he's used to using different schemes up there. So we'll see what happens.
Who knows? We just want a Super Bowl as Bears fans. That's all we want. That's all we're asking for.
We'll take a Super
Bowl.
Not that much. Not that much. So there were some other players that are going to be very significant in your, especially on fantasy draft day as opposed to NFL draft day, that are going to show up, and you're going to want to possibly take them in certain rounds because they're coming into very key positions on their teams. Of course, one of the big ones was Sammy Watkins, who in the first round went to the Bills, and that was a huge pick for them. Especially
and they traded to get him.
Yeah,
they traded with the Browns.
They did, and they had a huge need there because, of course, right before the draft, they announced that Stevie Johnson was going to the Niners. So, of course, every analyst and us go, wow, I wonder what they're going to take next. And sure enough, they trade up and they take a wide receiver, and they needed him because basically the only wide receiver left up there is Mike Williams, who just came in from Tampa Bay. So he's not even familiar with their system. So you have this just unfamiliar wide receiver up there in that system. I don't know. I think it's going to be strange up there because they're going to have a lot of new bodies at wide receiver, and it's going to take them a lot of time to adapt. But the thing about Watkins, apparently, I mean, the way he played in college, 101 receptions for 1,464 yards, 12 touchdowns, Orange Bowl MVP, he's going to have an impact right away.
Yeah, and I think they're just trying to get, you got to remember you have E.J. Manuel up there who only has 1 year under his belt. Mm-hmm. So he's a young quarterback. He's still learning, and I think they're just trying to get him some talented weapons to create some, some of that wide receiver quarterback love with. So we'll see. But, I mean, he's talented. And these are the players that you just want to keep an eye on during training camp. preseason. I mean, we're going to be back here helping you guys out with the fantasy drafts and stuff. But these are definitely guys to keep your eye on. Another wide receiver to look at is Mike Evans. He's with the Bucs. Seems like Lovie Smith is maybe learning from some of his mistakes in Chicago that he made. And, they got their defense stacked in free agency. And he actually drafted offensive players and actually ones that are supposed to be talented at that. So,
no way.
Too bad he didn't learn when he was with the Bears, but hey, he's learning now, it seems. And in 2013, Mike Evans had 69 receptions for 1,394 yards and 12 touchdowns. He was an all-SEC player. And what I really like about him, why I'm going to keep a good eye on him, is because he's learning behind Vincent Jackson. He's the guy to go down there and be opposite Vincent Jackson. Now, we've seen in Chicago what happens when you take a veteran receiver who is a Pro Bowler, who's amazing, and teaches this little young guy to come in and teaches him how to ball out. And I think that there's a good chance that'll happen. If he doesn't have the most amazing breakout season this season, maybe next season. Alshon's second season is when it happened. But he's one to keep an eye on. Who else do we have?
We have wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin, who went to the Panthers in the first round, 54 receptions for 1,011 yards, 15 touchdowns. He's going to be the guy on this team because the Panthers gave away
everyone,
the entire house.
We don't want Cam Newton to have people to throw the ball
to. No. Cam can do it all on his own. He's just going to tuck it, and he's going to run and get fantasy points for you.
And throw it and catch it on his own.
Oh, yeah. That's what I think he needs to learn next.
Throw a run down the field and catch it, Cam.
That's what he's going to have to learn next because they left him with nobody. Sorry, Ron. I know Ron Rivera, former Chicago Bear, wonderful player. I know you have a solid defense. We all know that. But you need to actually have some people on offense, just like Lovey's learning. So, all you had was Avant left that you brought in from the Eagles, who isn't anybody that's super dynamic. That's why the Eagles let him go without, a whimper. So, hell, I think he's going to have an impact on the Panthers instantly because he's going to be the guy.
And you can probably get him down in your fantasy drafts.
Watch for him about like round 11, 12, put him up, and everybody's going to look down that was in their magazine and go, who? We're telling you him right now.
And another guy to look for is the first running back that was taken of the draft. Even though it was the second round, his name is Bishop Sankey. He went to the Titans. And in 2013, he had 1,870 yards, which is a 5.7 yard per carry average, 20 rushing touchdowns. And he's obviously there to replace Chris Johnson, who left. So even though they have Sean Green, and I know they like Sean Green, he's a completely different type of back. I think they're looking to use Sankey right away. And that's another guy that, you might be able to swoop in later in the draft, and he ends up, balling out.
And as I pointed out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/bigballsfootball, hey, he was the latest running back to ever go in a draft. It's a record. Before, I forget what the pick was, but I mean, running backs going later and later and later and being devalued in the draft, and I just think it's really interesting.
I think teams are getting some steals with that happening.
Yes, they are, definitely, and it's just making it very interesting in fantasy drafts because they're like, well, the guy didn't go very high, but he's going to start. He's going to start for the damn team, so he's your guy. He's the guy that's going to get the carries.
And you get a lot of points off running backs in fantasy.
and you're going to have the analysts and their fantasy football magazines on NFL Network going, this guy went late. You already said it. You're going to pick him up for a steal late, and then you're going to look like a genius. So you got to watch for these players. The Vikings have picked up a quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater. In 2013, 3,970 yards, 31 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 71% completion rate, 71% in completions. You have Ponder there. We know what happened to Ponder. And Ponder is an example of the devalued quarterback and why there wasn't a quarterback run in round one this year because a lot of these quarterbacks used to go early, and we saw the impact Ponder had on the Vikings, Yep. So, they have Castle come in there and they try to solve the problem with him. No, it goes back to Ponder. Now they're going to experiment with Bridgewater.
It's going to be a quarterback competition.
Yes, yeah. Gee, go Vikings. Well, good thing you have AP. Pick up AP.
But that's the funny. I mean, I think AP is probably actually happy with this pick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Bridgewater can run a little bit himself. AP just wants a quarterback that will work out, and this is a new guy to try at least. So.
Where he's not. AP loves running the yards, but he's not the only guy. AP's not young anymore, even though he is the bionic man, and we've rebuilt him to be better. Hell, I mean, he's older. He's getting tired quicker, and he can't carry the team anymore.
Yeah, so we'll see what goes on up there with the Vikings. And the new head coach. So new head coach, new system.
Yeah.
Who knows how things will shake out. And then just a couple quick ones to watch. Lions took a tight end in the first, Eric Ebron. They need a tight end. We know that they have a very explosive offense, so he's probably going to play right away. And the Giants took a wide receiver to replace Hakeem-Nicks. They took Odell Beckham. So he's going to be in there right away, I think, opposite Victor Cruz. And if Eli has a better year, which it's hard to have a worse year, he should get some production. So we'll follow up with these guys for you, of course, later, but we just wanted to mention some names because the draft just happened.
So we're going to go around the league for the rest of this show, and we're going to have Cash on, our Lone Star correspondent. He's going to give you the Texas teams and his own take on the Bears. We're going to have Prost, of course, with your Packer backer draft coverage, and then we're going to have AJ in, who's going to give you the Patriots report. So that's what we're going to do this show. I think we're going to have a lot of coverage.
I think so, too.
Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Balls Fantasy Football. In Draft 2014, it's not just all about the Bears. It is also about other teams, and we have our Lone Star correspondent, Cash, of course, calling in from Dallas adjacent. He's going to give us the lowdown, first on the Houston Texans, and then the Dallas Cowboys. Cash, how was the Texans draft? Give us your analysis.
Greg, generally NFL football fans, thanks for bringing me back. The 2014 NFL draft was the most watched in history, just got done. And I'm going to talk about Chicago Bears, but let me save the best for last. And let's get right into the two Texan twisters, the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. So let me get to the Houston Texans. The commissioner opened up the draft with those famous words. The first pick of the draft, the Houston Texans select Johnny Manziel, defensive end out of South Carolina. And the intrigue, which was clearly up in the air for many weeks, was now revealed as the first overall pick was chosen. Now this dude is 6'5", 266 pounds, just had a unique blend of size, power, quickness, and speed. I think he posted like 47 TFLs, tackles for loss, 24 sacks, and 9 forced fumbles in his collegiate career at South Carolina. His other physical stats are these: arms 34.5 inches, hands 10 inches, vertical leap 37.5 inch, 40-yard dash, 4.53 seconds for this dude. It's no surprise that he was double and triple teamed often. If he keeps his motor going, that's a big if, on every play, there's no doubt that he has potential to be a Hall of Famer one day. He'll be part of a very scary defensive team, which will include J.J. Watts, Brian Cushing. His IDP potential is quite high. I would say probably the top 10. And the rest of the players the Texans drafted are projected to be bench warmers for 2014. This includes Xavier Suapilo, offensive guard, which you guys probably know out of UCLA. C.G. Fedorovich, tight end out of Iowa. Louis Nix III, out of defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Tom Savage, quarterback. That's not being mistaken with Tom Brady, even though he was taking the 6th round out of Rutgers. And he's also played at Pittsburgh and Arizona. Jeffrey Pagan, defensive out of Alabama. Alfred Blue, running back, LSU. Jay Prosh, out of Auburn. Dre Hall, quarterback, Vanderbilt. and Lonnie Valentine, free safety out of Memphis, and he is Mr. Irrelevant, being the last pick of the draft. Now, I know some of my colleagues may disagree, but I give the Texans a grade of B- for this draft. When you have the number one pick in the draft, especially in this draft, you can do so many things, but especially address your biggest need. The Texans' biggest was a quarterback, and I believe there was a number of ways they could have landed multiple picks, which would give them the opportunity to land a great defensive end and land one of the top three quarterbacks, being Johnny Manziel, Bortles, or H. McCarron. They didn't do neither. So to me, that's a major failure of the organization, given the light that this is one of the major reasons they didn't make it to the Super Bowl as forecasted by some from last year. So that's my lowdown on the Texans.
Well, I think that they definitely still have quarterback issues. They didn't fully address that in the draft. But I don't know how you can go into this draft being the number one pick and not take Clowney. If they didn't take Clowney, I was going to say they're complete idiots. So they still have quarterback issues, but teaming him up with J.J. Watt and company down there, that defense is going to be in beast mode. And don't forget, it was a defense that won the Super Bowl last year.
I think they're in kind of a Bears mode right now, where we used to be super heavy on defense, and we had quarterback problems year after year after year after year. And I don't know. I think maybe they didn't see anybody on the board that they thought fit into their program, and they're going to, maybe test the free agent market. Maybe they're just going to, sit for a while and cultivate their defense and rebuild. We're going to have to see. So, Cash, give us your Dallas report.
The Dallas Cowboys, the 16th pick of the draft, the Cowboys selected Zach Martin, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Now, Martin, who's 6'4", 308 pounds, so his short arms are a little bit short at 32 7/8, but he'll be the left guard for the boys. He has great technique and can play at any position on the line. This guy is NFL. Now, obviously, from a fantasy prospect, this is not a very sexy pick, no point value, but it's a good pick by the Cowboys. The rest of the players, not very inspiring as they're projected to be bench warmers for 2014. This includes DeMarcus Lawrence. Obviously, they need to draft another DeMarcus to replace DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus Lawrence outside linebacker out of Boise State. Anthony Hutchins, also linebacker out of Iowa. Devin Street, wide receiver out of Pittsburgh. Ben Gardner, defensive end out of Stanford. Will Smith, I believe, a linebacker out of Texas Tech. Emmett Dixon, he's a cornerback out of Baylor, not too far from here. Ken Bishop, out of NIU, defensive tackle. And Torrance. Now, Jerry was surely tempted to take Johnny Manziel, a local kid with the 16th pickup.
Cash, can you stop?
Yes.
Just start at the beginning of the last pick because we lost you, and then we can splice it up.
Sure, sounds good. So, and the last being Terrence Mitchell, cornerback, Oregon. Now, I will say that Jerry Jones was surely tempted to take Johnny Manziel, the local kid with the 16th pick, but because of Tony Romo's large contract, 6-year, $108 million, and he just did not feel that was the right move, even though it would make some sense, given that Tony is coming out of a back surgery. Still, Dallas had some major needs on the defense, especially defensive end, cornerback, instead of thinking like somebody like C.J. Mosley, Kelvin Pryor, D. Ford, or even Darqueze Dennard, Jerry went offense. To me, dumb. Not a good move. Dallas gets a C from me. Jerry, please hire a real GM. That's my take on the problem.
Well, I heard that he was quoted in saying that one reason he didn't draft Manziel was because of Manziel's celebrity. I mean, are you kidding me, Jerry Jones? You're not drafting someone because they're a celebrity with the Cowboys?
He doesn't want anybody to have more time than he does on the sideline. That's
just
the problem.
like, it makes absolutely no sense. You love celebrity. That's all the networks talk about is the Cowboys and what's going on. So I thought that was a very funny quote coming from the man it came from.
I was shocked that Manziel didn't go there. I'm shocked where Manziel ended up, and we already addressed that earlier today. Speaking of what we just got done talking about, Cash, what did you think? Give us a really small, like 1 or 2 minute blip of what did you think of the Bears draft?
The Bears, I thought, did a good job. They got the what many consider to be the best quarterback, Kyle Fuller, out of the draft, read by Mike Mayock and a number of other analysts. They also, did really well with some of the other players who they needed to concentrate on defense, especially Will Sutton, backup running back, Kadeem Perry, safety when they, Brock Marine, even the punter, which they needed, Pat O'Donnell, probably going in as lead, for the job. Basically, one of the reach was that basically Eagle Ferguson was somebody who was a little bit of a project. That's a little bit questionable, but I thought they did really well. They get a solid B from me, because I give Emory a lot of credit for addressing a number of holes. I thought they could have gotten like Clinton-Dix or Kevin Pryor, and then go after the best cornerback in the second round. That's from a fan's perspective. So I thought that's where they could have done a little bit better, but I thought it was actually a very good draft.
Yeah, I think we definitely addressed the needs on defense, which was where most of our needs were, at least, which we've talked about a little bit already. So, I agree with that. Definitely, I think a B grade.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Cash, for calling in, and we will be right back with more Draft 2014 coverage. Stay tuned.
Bye, Cash.
Bye, Cash.
Thanks.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Big Balls Fantasy Football. As you know, we're going all around the league finding out which team took who for the NFL draft. And, of course, we had to bring our arch rival Prost in, us being Bears fans, to find out who the enemy is going to have to combat us in the upcoming season. Prost, how's it going today, man?
Not too bad. Had decent.
The cheeseheads over there.
Go ahead, man.
The Packers did pretty good overall, addressing need as far as I was concerned.
So why don't you take us through the list?
Well, the first thing I'm watching the draft, I don't pay too much attention to the pre-draft, all of the mock drafts and hours of garbage that runs with this. So when the card comes up and they say, oh, look, it's Clinton-Dix, I had this absolute anchorman moment where the commissioner will say whatever it is you put on a card. And I'm just like, really, this dude's name is So I had to Google it. I'm like, it really is. But he's a 6'1" safety, and he was top ranked in the draft. And we all know the Packers in defense, so I love that first pick.
And you stole him from and we should have taken him. That's the problem. He should be on the Bears. We needed a safety as well, so we're a little jealous of you guys, bro.
Yeah, but we also grabbed Devontae Adams, the wide receiver, since our wide receiving core is, as great as this is getting thin. That was our second pick. We got Kyron Thompson, Thornton as defensive tackle. First pick in the third round to beef up, obviously, for the defense. What I'm waiting for is the Rodgers to Rodgers touchdown with our I call it the 3D pick, the 6'4" tight end. We don't know the status of Stonehands and if he's going to even be coming back to play. So we're a little thin at tight end. So that was a good pick.
You've dealt with Stonehands before there, but Jermichael Finley's on another team now, right? So I don't think you need to deal with him, do you?
Oh, Billy hasn't come out yet.
Oh, really? Oh, that's it. That's right. Okay.
Either way, we can keep up the tight end position. But when Rodgers throws to Rodgers, that's going to be interesting.
So what kind of grade do you give the Packers overall for this draft?
Looking at need based upon what they actually grab, I would have to give them a mid-range team. I don't think anybody ever gets an A. You can't get all the A's you need because it's just not possible. They definitely, they picked up a center to take care of Evan Smith, who played center last year. He's more of a utility lineman. So that was a good broad center. We picked up 3 wide receivers, a linebacker to go to tackle the safety. And we got a little kid, Dimitri Goodson. He's 25 years old. He hasn't played football in 5 years because he's playing basketball. He's 5'11", which is kind of short, but if you're able to play basketball for 5 years, that's great, especially as a cornerback. He'll do that box out position that tight ends do, as he's running around with receivers. So, interesting to see how he plays.
The basketball transition always works in the NFL. I think we're all familiar, especially you down there in San Diego, Prost, with a player called Antonio Gates. I think it kind of worked out for him in the NFL, don't you think?
Who's that?
Antonio.
Outside side, he was also one of the first to brag about how basketball helped his football game. So, yeah, the basketball position is, I think, actually heavily scouted as far as tight ends and receivers, and it's practitioner on the defense as well. So, if you are good at basketball, look for an NFL career.
Yeah, you have a better chance at having an NFL career than going into pro NBA. So, I definitely think you guys addressed your needs, and as I really hate to give you guys props because I don't like the cheeseheads, but I feel like you guys always, there it is. I feel like you guys always draft really well and you develop your players well, which is something the Bears are working on. We're getting better at, but you guys know how to develop players.
It has to be.
Thompson from Chicago. Thompson was working in Chicago. We took him to our office.
Yeah.
And this was the first time in 10 years I had a trip.
Yeah.
Packers did not do anything.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't. So, the elephant in the room as we go, I need to ask you, how's it going to feel to be 0-1 after the first week of the season, since you, lucky you, get to start the season, Packers, in Seattle, playing against the Seahawks, against the Super Bowl champs? What do you think up there, dude?
I wonder if the pressure's not on them. They're the ones that have to repeat. They've got all the hometown hype. You can't beat us on stadium. Everything's going against them. The Packers are going to go, okay, we're underdogs in Seattle. Who cares? In fact, as a Packer fan, I'm confident we don't have replacement referees this year.
I'm pretty sure the Packers are still upset about that one game that happened. When was it? 2 seasons ago. And everything ended up the way it did with the replacement refs.
We have no referees during this game. So when the receiver catches the defensive back that got the interception, it's not going to count this year.
Yeah, well, that's why I think they pitted the two teams together, especially up there. As
a betting, I would agree if Packers will start the season 0-1, but at the same point, I do have confidence. Like I said, pressure's on Seattle, so going there, them up, you want to surprise the world.
Yeah, well, I think they know the fan bases of those two teams. Are going to be just all in for this game. So NFL is smart how they put the schedule together.
So, Prost, you're gonna. It's not a very far flight up to Seattle there, and it's still going to be reasonably warm weather. You're going to hop on up there and go see the game, or what?
I'm debating the trip. I just have to see. Anyone who's watched the show last year may know it's trimmed a little bit. It's my finding look. I got my medical look. It's sold out. I'm looking for work now. So anyone that needs a wise-ass sportscaster,
you don't need a good shoulder to be a good sportscaster. So, hey, man, come on.
No.
Well, Prost, thanks a lot for your Pack report. We really appreciate it. And I hate to say this, but good luck this season.
Hey, no problem, guys. Look forward to this thing on later in the year and getting the show back rolling full time, getting back to it.
Absolutely.
All righty. Well, we'll be back with more draft coverage after this.
Hi, everybody. I'm AJ Lawrence, your New England Patriot correspondent, and I'm here to give you the rundown on what the Pats have been doing in the offseason. All right, so first lineup, Brandon Browner. That's right, the former Seattle Seahawk that went away for a bit due to a suspension with a little bit of a drug issue. The Patriots picked him up. They got him for 3 years, $17 million. Now, he's a solid cornerback, but we're going to see how he fits in and whether he abides by Belichick's rules. And we know he's out for a bit because of his suspension, so he's going to be gone for at least the first 4 games of the season. Of course, on the opposite side, we have another great cornerback, Darrelle Revis, who the Patriots picked up in place of Aqib Talib, who's left to go to the Broncos. Now, Patriots got Revis for about a year and about $12 million, so he's a good pick, and I think he'll be strong. Of course, the question is whether he can bring to the table that wonderful personality and sense that Talib had. Now, I think Revis is a great player, and so I think no matter what, once he gets out on that field, he is going to be as great as we know Aqib Talib was. All right, who else do we have? We re-signed Ryan Wendell. He's a very strong center, great durability. We got him for about 2 years, $4.5 million, making some good money there. He was extremely good in 2012, and his performance wasn't as good in 2013. But I think no matter what, the Patriots have made a great investment, and he's going to be pretty worthwhile when he gets out there. All right, now going into the draft, the Patriots, they were already in a really good position. They didn't need all that much at all, but they did have some areas that they could fill, like the safety depth, also linebacker depth, and maybe a veteran defensive end would have been a good play. And of course, coming out of the gate, pick number 29, they come up with Dominique Easley from Florida. He's very, very strong. He's known to be an explosive player. The only concern is that he tore his ACL in his college years. Whether he's going to be able to keep up with the Patriots is yet to be seen, but I think there is a lot of good hopes out there. And then in the second round, New England actually made a very interesting pick. For the franchise, it was their highest quarterback pick since 1993 when they chose Drew Bledsoe. They picked Jimmy Garoppolo. He is a quarterback from Eastern Illinois. He's thought to be pretty good. And the interesting question is, what are they going to do with Ryan Mallett? He's sitting right back there, waiting behind Tom Brady, who will be 37 this year. But of course, Ryan only has about a year on his contract, and there's talks of trades. So who knows? Maybe they're picking up Jimmy to look to fill that franchise quarterback area. We'll see what happens in maybe about 2015. But I can tell you, he's a pretty face. So if they want to replace Brady, he could be the way to go. Now, they made some pretty good picks in the other rounds. They largely filled in, beefed up their offensive line. But the interesting play the New England Patriots had came in round 7. The Patriots were knee-deep in wide receivers. You have Amendola, Edelman, Boyce, LaFell, Dobson. They didn't need anybody else, but they did pick someone. They picked Jeremy Gallen. As a good wide receiver, very strong play, but not necessary. Unless Dobson's surgery back in, February of this year? That didn't go so well with his foot surgery. We're going to have to see how it's going to play out in the end. But overall, the Patriots are pretty well stacked. They had a really, really strong offseason in terms of picks and trades, and we think they're going to come into this next season very strong. We'll see. The preseason game, first one for them is August 7th. I'm going to be watching, and it's going to be excellent. Back to you, Jenilee and Greg.
So there you all have it. That is everything that happened in the draft. Most everything. Now, we couldn't get to every team, but the show would be like 10 hours if we did that.
We're not NFL Network. We haven't been covering this for 4 weeks and bored the living crap out of you and speculated for 4 weeks only to be wrong on half of it.
But we gave you the information you had to have, and our correspondents were awesome, so
Yes.
we thank them always for being on the show. Be sure to go to our hub, bigballsfantasyfootball.com. You can find everything there. You can find our bios, our photos, our old videos, our podcasts. I mean, it has everything. So it's a really fantastic site, and you need to visit it.
yeah, we have our Twitter feed at Big Balls F-Ball. We have our Facebook page, facebook.com/BigBallsFootball. And we're on Pinterest. We're on every other damn place on the web that you can think of. We're on Tumblr. I know you're all following our Tumblr feed. Aren't you following our Tumblr feed?
I am following our Tumblr feed. And of course, YouTube, youtube.com/BigBallsFootball. That's where you catch every single episode.
And that's where you're hopefully watching us, or on BigBallsFantasyFootball.com. We thank you guys for watching during the off season, and don't forget to, if you're not watching this now, you're going to watch it right before you do your fantasy football draft, because we're giving you the hookup right now. All right? Have a good off season, everybody.
Good night.